gonna listen to? Oh, government sports. What you gonna listen to? Oh, government sports. Sit back, relax. Vince and Stevie D are gonna break it down about the team from their hometown.
And there he goes, inside the 10, the 5. Oh, the play of the year. That's a jet touchdown. Garrett Wilson strikes.
You gonna laugh, you gonna cry, but these two are ride or die.
61-yard try for the lead. It is Owens. He's got it. He's got it. He's got it. Here is Hall. Shot out of a cannon, and he will score.
They'll take you all the way to the Super Bowl or the exhibition game. Stay with them all the way to the Hall of Fame.
And the AP Most Valuable Player presented by Invisalign is Josh Allen.
Be good, do good. God bless, and go Bills.
And welcome back to another edition of Official Word Sports. I'm Vince, and I'm here with my man Stevie D. And Stevie D, actually, that countdown is over. It is officially over. The Chargers have opened up training camp.
Yeah, Hall of Fame game.
Yeah, they have to get ready for the Hall of Fame game. That's right. So I guess all of that dog days that we were talking about, that's over.
Well, for our teams, they're still in the dog days.
Well, we have rookies that have reported. I think you guys did too, right? The rookies reported.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know, go ahead. No,
I was going to say, the Chargers, they put 6 of their draft picks on the pup already. Crazy.
So here's what's interesting is that there is a lot of, I guess, back and forth right now. All of the second round picks, except for 2, are unsigned. And it's almost like they're colluding together against the league. And now there's this standoff because they want the guaranteed money. I don't disagree with those second round picks. I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot of starters that come out of the second and third round, but you look at a second round player, depending how the board falls, right? There could be a big run. All of a sudden, guys are like, oh, I had you projected at 15, but there was a run on wide receivers. And then the next group, I don't have a need, right? And now all of a sudden you fall into, the 5th pick of the second round. You're messing with my money because you're trying to be part of the run.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach. I think we've seen it from the NFL before where they will just shut you out. So be careful what you try and play with because it could backfire. And yes, granted, 30 picks that are unsigned, and are you really going to boycott 30 players because they may hold out or they may go back into the draft? It's a gamble. Right? Le'Veon Bell years ago held out, and that backfired there because he sat out a whole year, and really he went from a Hall of Fame running back, and he signs with the Jets, and basically Jets coach didn't want him. He falls on his face, right? You talked about Shedeur Sanders weeks ago about the NFL colluding against him, and he went to the 5th round, right? Maybe that was payback, like you were saying, for Deion, and this could backfire because at the end of the day, you're putting a big risk. I understand the guaranteed money, absolutely. You play a violent sport, injuries happen, and you could get hurt in the first week and walk away with nothing, no pension, no nothing. So I'm with you on that. I just think it's a dangerous game.
It definitely is. It definitely is into a league that what we have seen this year already, they are in locked arms as far as making sure that they're looking out for the shield. And they really don't care. Right. And, I have a strong opinion on guaranteed money in the NFL as it is, right? You compare it to baseball. Let me be fair, right? It's a grind. 162 is a grind. We have seen the most gruesome injuries, right? We've seen things happen. But when you talk about football, the chances of injury on every single play are far greater than what you have in baseball.
Life-altering
Yes.
injuries.
Yes. 100%. And you just have a weak union. It's what you have.
There you go.
And I'm going to tell you right now, if the players were going to do anything, you have got to capitalize on the situation at hand. You are the most popular sport in America. Hands down. You, as the players, are what drives the game. They could try to put in the replacement players. We saw how that went, right? So you could try to do that. Nobody is going to watch when it's Vince and Stevie D on the field, as opposed to Garrett Wilson and Josh Allen. They're just not going to watch. And so the players have to look at that and say, okay, this is what we want. And we're going to sacrifice maybe 1 year or half of a season to be strong so that later on down the line, whether it be the next year, 3 years, 5 years, or worrying about the players coming behind them, that you have something in place. They've got to do it. And you've got to take advantage of it. I don't think the other sports, at least right now, hockey's not catching the NFL. Basketball has gone sideways. If basketball stayed the way it was in the 90s and early 2000s, okay, I'll give you that. Baseball has drifted so far away, and they just keep Manfred and just Major League Baseball keeps making bad decisions that I don't see anybody coming to take the crown from the NFL. So use this from the players and from the union. Use your popularity, use your leverage to really get what you want. Don't worry about 47% and 48%. Big picture, guys. Big picture.
They're not even close to some of the other unions. Not even close. As far as revenue sharing is concerned, they are quite a bit of percentage points behind. I mean, when you said they're the weakest union, they literally are the weakest union. And every time they went on strike, they didn't really better their position because the NFL just seems like they're able to give them a few crumbs and then take advantage of them, right? It's like we give them some crumbs, we sign the CBA, and then the following year they get a new TV deal that brings in all this revenue, and then they're screwed for the next X amount of years. It's incredible how they're able to get over on the players. Just it's mind blowing there. It's almost like they have to go truly in a different direction for a player union head that has a different background and is able to negotiate better.
Yes.
Who that is, I don't know, but it wouldn't be somebody that I would think would be in the NFL.
Well, Stevie D, the way that we negotiate contracts, you on your side, me on my side, we get great deals.
Yes, we do.
In our other job, in our second job, we get great deals. I'd love to have a chance to sit across the table from Rogers. Hey, Roger, here's what we're going to do, buddy.
That's like, take no crap. I mean, I'll leave, right? I mean, we know a certain person out there, Angel, that, it's just, I'm not paying your price, right? But in all seriousness, but they do have to get better. It's atrocious, right? It's atrocious.
So, Stevie D, I know there's been a flurry of activity going on there in Florham Park. I see a jersey behind you, number 33. Is there a new signing of a number 33, Big Rich?
Well, I guess we're going to break it here. My son signed a contract for the New York Jets, and that's his jersey, Big Rich, number 33. So he's all excited. He'll be debuting that jersey on the road in week 3 in Tampa, Florida. Yeah, so he's gonna, and the Jets will be wearing their green jerseys.
Please make sure you tell him and get it through the head: risk versus reward.
I tried. It's Big Daddy's 50th. He's got to be there, right? He's just got to be, right?
That's okay. He can be there. Just risk versus reward. He's going to be wearing Big Rich. You're going into the belly of the beast.
We're not afraid down in Tampa. We're not afraid. I know, thanks to you, and a little backstory here, which turned out to be a really good April Fool's joke that we wound up playing on a former coworker, God rest his soul. But as we digress here for a second, that game, it was a preseason game, Jets Tampa Bay, and man, I was going to go after that one guy, and you grabbed me from the back of the shirt, and you just said to me, risk versus reward. You got everything to lose. This drunk guy's got nothing to lose, and you saved me that day, because it would have been interesting how it would have went down.
And for those that are watching, please understand, this was a preseason game.
Yeah. But everybody likes to be loud and talk. That's right. Yeah.
Chirping at a preseason game. Preseason games are really kids' games, right? The preseason games are where the families go. And you got this nonsense. That's why I say you're going to the belly of the beast. It's like when I went to Municipal Stadium for, to watch the Bills and the Browns. It's like you go into these cesspools. They're added with Tennessee. No,
well, it's interesting because my buddies years ago, there was a really popular Jet game, Jets versus Tampa, in that park where we did a halfback toss with Martin. He threw a touchdown pass to Wayne Corbett to seal the game. All my friends that were at that game, they all got arrested. They were in the tank at the bottom of the stadium. They missed the ending. So when they got released at the end of the game because of almost getting into a fight with them, and they got hauled away, they were saying to people, "What was the final score of the game?" And they were saying, "Yeah, okay, a-hole," right? Like, because you're at the stadium, they didn't know that they were in the drunk tank, even though they weren't drunk. They just were getting in the fight. So, yeah. So there's some history down there in Tampa. So it's going to be interesting there. Look at that. All right, I can retire now. That's what I'm talking about.
Don't forget about your uncle here in Tampa.
Right around, bud. Just remember, half of that goes to taxes. Just letting you know that right now. And then because you're a New York, you're going to pay that tax. You got to pay that tax. So,
what are we looking at? A 2-year, $7 million deal?
Basically, when it's all said and done, when Uncle Sam, gets his cut. But, I know we are going with the Big Rich, but the Jets finally. It's like, and we talked about this a lot the last couple of days. It's the organization. I think Aaron Glenn, because he was there before Moogie. I think the new GM. I think AG really kind of laid out his plan for the Jets in that interview process and what it takes and what he needs to do as an owner, meaning Woody Johnson, to propel this organization. Because the Jets made 2 landmark deals, whether you like the average per year or you don't. As a fan of a changing of the guard in an organization, where this is the first time in this new arena for the way contracts are written, in the last 14 years, since this in 2011, it changed the way the NFL dealt with rookie contracts with the 50-year option. And the Jets have not signed anyone after their 3rd year. These are the first 2. So this is a monumental change for the philosophy for the New York Jets, where they're saying, yes, we are going to lock up our young players. And for me, to see players be disgruntled and want out, or players just getting frustrated because they don't get paid, this is huge for the Jets of re-signing their homegrown talent before it gets ugly. And it's before training camp.
So what changed? Why wouldn't you do that? You've had some good young players. Why now?
I I think it's how it's presented. I think it's how it's presented. I thought Aaron Glenn in his press conference talked about sustained winning. How are you going to sustain winning? You have to secure your core nucleus of young talent that as they grow, right, that you're hoping your organization continues to draft well and sign the key pieces to create sustained winning. And I think Aaron Glenn had a lot to do with that. Now, sure, Moogie probably came in and said his piece, but Aaron Glenn was hired first. And so I think he had to pitch this to Woody Johnson. And you're going to say, you're telling me Joe Douglas didn't do it? Or Mike Hadley didn't do it?
Exactly what I was thinking.
Right. Maybe they tried and failed with the proper wording. Or could Woody Johnson have matured where he's tired of being a doormat in the NFL and he's finally going to listen to people? Because, Joe Douglas, he had his faults, but he drafted some really good players during his regime. And here's another thing where I think, as I kind of pivot back to Aaron Glenn and Darren Moogie, is that a lot of fans wanted the Jets to draft a tight end in the first round. They wanted that, was a Ty Warren kid or whatever out of Penn State. They wanted the tight end. They wanted another receiver. And I thought the mature thing to do was to grab the right tackle and finish what we started on the offensive line. That was the smart play. Because you name me a team that can win playoff games and a championship without an offensive line. I'll be here all day. We'll waste the whole time here just sitting and waiting because it just doesn't happen. Look how great your organization is playing offensively. It's a lot because of your big guys up front are really, really good and they stay healthy, right? And that allows your offense to run like a well-oiled machine. I'm not saying we're as good as the Buffalo Bills offensive line. I'm just saying I like the pick now that line, all those players are 4 years and younger in the league, except for John Simpson. So 4 of the 5 are young players that you can grow with, right? And I love that with the Jets. And then you go out and now you take your 2 biggest names on offense and defense, right? The big splash offensive and defensive rookies of the year. And you go and you get them. Now they're locked for the next 6 years, right? So this contract doesn't play in the next 2 years. They're extensions. So years 4 and 5, they'll still play underneath that contract. And then their contracts kick in. So the salary cap's going to raise, right? We're going to hopefully get out of some of our old bad contracts. So when their contracts really take a hit, where we really see it, it won't be as bad, right? And we still have more work to do.
These contracts are good till 2030, I heard.
Yes, correct. Right. And so, again, you have hopefully your offensive leader in Garrett Wilson, right, that's signed, and he's going to take a bigger leadership role. I'm sure they talked about that during the negotiation process. And the same thing with Sauce. I want to see a little bit more maturity out of Sauce. I just think we need to see more maturity out of him with his teammates. I think it's been hot and cold. But now that you are now the main guy on defense from your contract, I expect you to step up and be a leader.
I know you like the signing.
I do.
I know you like the signing of what it represents.
Yes, without a doubt.
Do both players merit the signing?
Well, that's going to be interesting, right? Because, Garrett Wilson has the catches and the 1,000-yard seasons, but he doesn't have the average yards per catch with it, which I would like. I think it's very low. When you're catching 100 balls and you have like 1,100 yards receiving, you're 10.8 yards per catch. I want to see more of that. Now, I do think last year with Aaron Rodgers, he took a hit because a lot of his throws were at the line of scrimmage. And so, yes, he got a lot of catches, but not a lot of yards came out of it. I am not concerned about the money. I'm really not. I think it was a must. And Garrett Wilson's contract is top 4. He's not the number 1. Sauce is the number 1 contract right now, which will be outdone here in a few months by somebody else because this seems to be the trend. But no, I'm not overly concerned right now. I thought the guarantees on Sauce Gardner was only $60 million. Obviously, they have the guarantees from the rookie deal, so it's like $80 million in total total money. Oh, nice.
Absolutely love the rivalry.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Welcome to the show, Jeff. And with Garrett, he's 90, so plus the 20. So we have a lot more money invested in Garrett Wilson than we do with Sauce.
Sure.
But again, monumental signings for the Jets. It's a culture change. There's naysayers in Jets Nation that are saying, yeah, but you got to go win games. What I say to those folks, I don't disagree because you want to win games. Hey, I'm as thirsty as anybody to win games. I'm tired of winning 5 games a year and being the laughing stock and being compared to the Cleveland Browns. Because that's never a good sign when you get in the same sentence as the Cleveland Browns, right? So it's the steps in the right direction that you're looking for, and that's what I believe we have right now is change. I know it's Cleveland Browns.
But throwing shade on the Browns. Wait, what in the world's going on?
Right. If you're in that same sentence. You want to talk about fertility in the league over the last 25 years is the Cleveland Browns. And when you're being mentioned because your playoff drought is not as long as Cleveland, but they're all over the place, Cleveland, right? Just when you thought they were going to turn the corner, they didn't, right? So right now, I love the signings. It's going to be curious to see what happens with Breece Hall because he's a free agent at the end of this year. Do they franchise him? Do they decide to make a long-term offer to him to try and retain him? And then you got the other first-round pick from this draft was Jermaine Johnson coming off the Achilles, right? So do you look to, sign him from FSU? Right, that's your guy. It's interesting. Hey, what's up, Craig? You got to pay Quincy Williams, the linebacker, because he's due for a pay raise. So the Jets, again, how serious you are. Love to see some of these guys get re-signed early and show that commitment. We have to change the perception that players think of the New York Jets. And one of the ways you can do it is showing that you mean business and re-signing your players. Great teams find a way to sign their guys that they want. They're able to manipulate and they can get it done. So good sign for the Jets.
Fair enough. So Stevie D, as we get ready to just dive headfirst into this, I want to make sure we put in big, bold letters on the blimp the disclaimer. This was hard. And not only was this hard, you had to do, and maybe it wasn't that hard, but it was the fact it was hard on us. It was hard on the heart. It was hard on the stomach. It was hard on the mind. Needed some Alka-Seltzer, some Tums, some Maalox. We needed it all. And the reason why I say that is that as we were going through the other positions, we're like, oh, yeah, this guy was really great. This guy was great. Oh, I have these two debating. I have an honorable mention list, and this guy could definitely come off. And then Stevie D and I started talking. And we were talking about our quarterbacks. We were like, man, it's kind of slim out there. Don't have a lot to put up there. And we were debating, can you even do 5? Can we do 4? Can we do 3? Right? And so, again, we want to share this with everybody. It was a tough one.
It was really rough. And I used the word because we had many conversations around all the different positions, but this one really, hit like you said. And it's like, I'm going to speak about the Jets because I can't speak to the Bills' history. We are inept at drafting and what's the word? Not growing a quarterback, but giving the quarterback all the tools to be successful. It's not like we drafted quarterbacks that got hurt and were out of the game. We had quarterbacks that we drafted 3 or 4 years and couldn't get out of their own way. And it's like draft after draft, and I'm looking at these names, I'm just saying, oh my God, we are really bad at the quarterback position. Really bad. This was really, really hard. And I'm curious on what Jets fans takes, and obviously the Bills fans take on the top 5 that we have for our respective teams. because it was really rough, and maybe they see something that we're not seeing out of a quarterback, because this was tough. I'm just glad we're done. This was the last one, and we don't have to worry about talking about the top 5 right now.
Yeah, indeed. All right. Well, without further ado, and I wanted to say one other thing as we talk about this. It's not just the Jets and it's not just the Bills, right? And you started to have to go into this more with an open mind, and you start looking at all the different franchises. When you have that guy, not that you put him on a pedestal, but you have to appreciate the value, the talent, and everything that surrounds that guy. Right? He's got to be that guy. I know we saw Craig on here. Flacco may have gotten you to the promised land, but Flacco's not that guy.
Flacco had a magical run in the playoffs where he had no turnovers, and he had an amazing defense.
Right.
I mean, he played out of his mind. I think he was like, if I remember correctly, Craig, you correct me if I'm wrong, he was like 11 touchdowns, no picks in that playoff run. You're not going to lose many games when you have an 11-0 turnover ratio, right?
Right.
You're going to win some games with that defense for sure.
And I'm not throwing shade at
Right.
the Ravens. I'm just saying Flacco, that's a good example of a guy that got you to the promised land, but he's not that guy. There are certain players that are that guy, a Manning, an Elway, guys like that are that guy. You have to appreciate when your team is able to get that guy, right? Because it's far and few between. We see what's going on in Pittsburgh right now, right? Ben left, and you look at, just the list of names. Cleveland, their list of names keeps growing, right? Their list is what, 35, 36, trying to find that guy. Craig did respond. He played out in 2 playoff series. He did. All right. So with that being said, and without any further ado, here we go to Gang Green.
All right.
You start out with a sigh.
Well, yes, because if you notice all the other ones we talked about, we said honorable mentions, right? I change it to notable, right? When I look at Boomer, he had a great career with Cincinnati. He played 3 years with the Jets through a rough spell with bad coaching, bad teams at the end of his career. You had Brett Favre, who played 1 year, statistically was like the 6th best season in franchise history, right? Mark Sanchez, who everybody ran out of town, including myself, because he was a turnover machine. But he was 4-2 in the playoffs, and he had a winning record as our starting quarterback at 33-29 through his 6 years with the Jets. But he was a train wreck, right? We ran him out of town. He was immature. He wasn't. He was an immature player. He didn't take the game planning and everything seriously, and it showed on the football field. And then you got 8, right? You got Aaron Rodgers, who had 1 year. It was the 3rd best statistical season in Jets history in 1 year. Our franchise is so bad that I had to put these guys on the notable mentions. I mean, could I put Pat Ryan, the backup quarterback for the 80s, on there? Yeah, I could have. But if you really dive into the Jets statistics, Sam Darnold is not that far off to being on a notable mentions list. There's no way I could have put Sam Darnold on this list. There's no way. It's embarrassing. I got Mark Sanchez and a bunch of has-beens on here. It's horrible. It's horrible. It goes back to, we don't know how to draft. We don't know how to mentor and support a young quarterback to be great. We have shown we can't sit a young quarterback so they can learn. Right? They get thrown to the wolves. There's a reason why you're picking in the top 5 and you're throwing this guy out to the wolves, because you idiots in the front office listen to us fans calling up the radio station saying, we need get this guy to play day 1. Yeah, okay. We got no receiving core, no offensive line, and you think this guy coming out of college is going to be able to lead us. Come on, people. Can't. The fans don't allow. So what happens? Woody's got his minions, right? Woody gets his minions and to listen to the radio, and he's probably calling down there saying, hey, start this kid, right? So that's the notable mentions. There's nothing more to really else say on these notable mentions. I just was not fun putting those four together. So, all you older Jet fans, yes. So this was the era of when I became a Jet fan, right? So I was always a Jet fan when I was younger, but I really remember, because I'm old, like 81. 81 was like the year like I can actually still remember at being 50 years old. Like I can go back to when I was 6, right? Before that I didn't. So Richard Todd, when these posts come out from time to time, who's your quarterback when you start, falling in love with the Jets? It was Richard Todd. So a little bit about Richard Todd, right? He was the 6th overall pick by the Jets out of Alabama. He played with us from 76 to 83 and finished up in New Orleans. Look, again, number 5. Just think about this, right? 110 touchdowns, 138 interceptions. He's in our top 5. Not very good, right? But he led some teams there in the early 80s there when we had the defense. And look, we all know it should have been our year against the Dolphins, right? In 82. That was our year. And in Miami, in the rainstorm, didn't cover the field, and we couldn't get any traction. We had more speed on that team. And Miami, hats off to Don Shula. It was the smartest play you could have done. And we didn't win that game. Richard Todd had a bad throwing game, and that was the beginning of the end for him in the Jets uniform. He was gone by 83. The last tidbit on Richard Todd was, how do you replace a legend? Right? That's the other half. You're replacing Joe Namath that just changed the quarterback. It turned it more into a sex appeal position. It was weird, all the things that Joe was able to accomplish and the way he marketed himself was genius. And you're Richard Todd, right? It's like guy replacing, your guys, your guy there at number 12 in Buffalo. It's hard to do. It's not easy replacing a legend. So that was Richard Todd at number 5. That's where I would have said, in a perfect world, I would have cut and not do 5. I probably would have done 4. Richard Todd was a stretch for me. At number 4, Vinny Testaverde. Vinny, the funny thing about Vinny, he started in Tampa, right? And he had nothing in Tampa. And he was a disaster. But in his career, his first year at Cleveland, his first year in Baltimore, his first year with the Jets, he had phenomenal seasons in those first years with those new teams. And then the second year kind of showed that he wasn't, that top tier type quarterback. But, Vinny overall for his career, from a passing numbers, he had 46,000 yards. He played a ton of football. But for the Jets, he had 77 touchdowns, 58 picks, 12,500 yards passing. And the other notable thing about Vinny, who grew up on Long Island, and for folks that may not know this, his father could never watch his games live in college or the professionals. His father would have heart palpitations like he was having a heart attack. So he had to watch it after the game and had to know the results prior to him watching the game. He had to know what his son did because he was had so much passion. But that passion also created a lot of anxiety and heart attack risk. And so that was just an interesting note. People may not know that about Vinny. What I didn't cover up top, shame on me, was that he was a first-round pick, first overall from the U. For Tampa. And so Vinny led our team, our charge in 98. He came in week 2 for Bill Parcells and led the Jets to a 12-3 record and 1-1 in the playoffs. We reached the AFC Championship game that year with him. and everything was looking great. And then 1999 happened, week 1 against New England, and he tore his Achilles. And that season was then lost because we wound up going with a mirror of quarterbacks. It just didn't work out. Although Ray Lucas went 6-3 as a starter, the other clowns went 2-5. So, but Vinny hung in there 2 times with the Jets. So I got Vinny at number 4. Number 3, love this kid. This kid needs to be a coach in the NFL. I know his son is going to be drafted here shortly to the NFL. I'd love to see Chad as an offensive coordinator or QB coach and get involved. He is a really, really smart individual. The problem with him is 2 shoulder surgeries later, he had a noodle arm. And I never saw a quarterback really, when that happened, throw more pick sixes because he couldn't throw. He tried to throw an out, and everybody picked it and ran it back to the house. But Chad was a first-round pick. He was in that famed 2000 draft where the Jets had 4 number ones. The reason why the Jets had 4 number ones that year is that the Patriots traded for Bill Belichick, and so we got some ones off of that trade. So he was a 24th overall out of Marshall, played 7 seasons with the Jets. Became the starter in 2002. Oddly enough, I was at that first game with my wife playing Kansas City. So his first NFL start was against the Kansas City Chiefs. We lost that game, but he played really well, and I think that's what really kind of energized the fan base. Like, we have something here. He was a 2-time comeback player of the year, one for the Jets, one for the Dolphins. He had over 13,000 yards for the Jets. Again, really more 5 years starting, not 7. 82 touchdowns, 55 picks, and like I said,
Wait.
Well,
I'm sorry, we were experiencing some technical difficulties.
I don't know why. What? Oh, you're referring to the picture. Well, Chad Pennington's signature play was the fake out of your linebacker Wilson for the touchdown, and this is really the best still I could have gotten. But watching that game live when he did the bootleg, and watching Wilson come out and he did the little stutter leg, he got Wilson to fall for it, and then Wilson fell on his butt and then tried to make a diving tackle there at the very end and didn't happen. So, Vince, if this was our last one, I had to do that one with the Buffalo Bills. It just so happened I had that epiphany, memory of this play, and I said I got to get it in there. I know Vince is not going to be excited about it, but it was a play. I'm sure you remember that play.
Yeah, well, first of all, if you're going to put up a clip, make sure you have the right player's name. That was Eugene Robinson.
It was number 55.
Eugene Robinson, the old man on the defense who couldn't do anything.
Ooh, man,
was
I don't know.
out
When I watched that play to grab that, it was number 55, and it said Wilson on his last name.
He shouldn't have been out there in the first place. But okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when you are mired in futility. You have to take cheap shots.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Absolutely. When you keep looking up and you see that team in first place year after year. Yeah. So I have to bring back the glory days, right? Of 2002 for the Jets.
And you see, Craig, he doesn't say anything about the Ravens because, basically he's not worried about the Ravens.
Who?
See?
I better watch it. The Jets got the Ravens this year, so I got to be very careful.
Can we go on to number 2? This picture is just killing me. I remember this like, what?
So number 2, who is it going to be? Kenny O'Brien.
Ooh.
From the famed 1983 QB draft.
I thought, okay. I know who one is, and I guess I know why, but I thought O'Brien.
Ken O'Brien, I feel for Ken O'Brien. He was not what the fans wanted. Everybody wanted Marino. Nobody in the draft knew who Ken O'Brien was. They never heard of UC Davis College, right? Even I think he said his own brother-in-law, like, how did you get drafted at number 24? I mean, it became comical for Ken O'Brien, and he had to block out all that noise. But here's what I'll say. Dan Marino was the guy to get. We didn't draft him. But Ken O'Brien actually did some very good things with the New York Jets. The Jets failed to provide him an offensive line. He led the leagues in sacks, unfortunately, because he got killed. 4 or 5 years, he just, our line, except for our center, was atrocious at the offensive line. And so when you don't have an offensive line in the league, it's going to be rough. But I'll tell you, he can shoot it out with the best of them. He had a really good arm. We had Wesley Walker. That was a really good deep threat for Ken O'Brien. And they hooked up time and time again. And then you had Al Toon, you had Mickey Schuler, and he found those guys. And, you know, the stats speak for itself. With the 128 and 96 in his time with the Jets, he was a two-time Pro Bowl. I think he actually technically went to 3. But he was like the 5th alternate, so I don't think they really count like the 5th alternate. But, you know, for me, I got to see him 3 times but in a Pro Bowl. But, you know, it was just a shame that that he was always going to be remembered as the quarterback taken before Dan Marino, and the Jet fans will always say that he's not our guy. But Ken O'Brien was a very, very good quarterback for the Jets, especially in our history. You know, I like Kenny O'Brien. I really did. He finished his career with the Eagles, didn't do much there. Yeah, I hear you. But Ken O'Brien at number 2, he had a really good arm. He was really accurate downfield. I just wish we had more time. I've said to people, if you put O'Brien in Miami with that line and that coaching staff, and you put Marino with Joe Walton, and with that offensive line, I don't know if Marino lasts. I really don't. Because our offensive line was that putrid. And I know Marino is great and he had a quick release. I wondered how he would have survived with Joe Walton, who really, as he got older, became a more and more conservative coach and was driving the fans crazy. And they finally dumped him in 88. I just don't know how Marino would have done in that offense. And I'm not saying that O'Brien is better than Marino. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the Jets' offensive line was so bad. I would love to see Marino throw to Al Toon and Wesley Walker all day long, right?
Wasn't the reason for passing on Marino because of the allegations of him smoking marijuana?
Yeah. Yep.
Which was they never proven, and you wonder, was that part of that draft day? You know, rumors, trying to air stuff to get a guy to drop.
Well, in all fairness, how does Marino fall to 28 in general? Forget the Jets. I mean, it's criminal that the Jets passed on him at 24. You get a talent like that full at 24, you got to take him, right? So still shame on the Jets, but how about all those other guys that the Chiefs took Todd Blackledge, right? Like, really? So, I just don't. I think he's more appreciated today from my age group than definitely when he was, in the thick of things. So, Ken O'Brien was my number 2.
All right. Number 1.
Well, I mean,
Joe Willie.
It's Joe Willie, right? First round pick, 9th overall from Alabama. He's from Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. Drafted in 65, played through the 76 season with the Jets, finished up with the Rams. Shouldn't have finished up with the Rams. It's one of those you're hanging on for whatever reason. His knees, he had nothing left in the tank with the knees, but he wanted to go out, I guess, on his terms. Kind of revolutionized the quarterback position there with the shotgun, and he just winged it all over the place, right? Again, Mount Rushmore player, Ring of Honor. 5-time Pro Bowl, 1-time All-Pro. I'm not going to read everything here. You can see everything the things that he's accomplished in his career. He is, what I love about Joe now is that, yes, we did. And it was a really good, smart game plan. And that doesn't get talked enough about Joe Namath, the smarts. They didn't throw a single pass in the fourth quarter. He ran the offense, just if people didn't know that. He called his own plays. The offensive coordinator didn't call the plays. So if people didn't know that, that's how revolutionary and what they thought of him. And he was the play caller. And Weeb Eubank, our head coach, said, "Hey, Joe, what are we going to be doing here?" Right? He's like, "Coach, I don't need to throw the ball. We are going to run. They couldn't stop us all game. We have them all confused. We're just going to run the football." And that's what he did all in the fourth quarter. And it was smart, right? It wasn't selfish. It wasn't trying to be a hero to put up any crazy stats or try to do that.
You hear that, Russell Wilson?
Throwing the ball there, right? But, Joe, what I appreciate more now about Joe is that he's not afraid to call out our owner and call out players and call out front office people. He says it how it is, whether they like it or not. And you know what? He's Joe freaking Namath, and the fan base is never going to turn their back on him. And I love it that he says it. And, it's hard to believe that he's 80-something years old, right? But Joe Willie, he brought the fur coat, the pantyhose commercials. He did everything, and he really showed the players of today how to market yourself to make money. He probably made more money in the endorsements than he did in his football career, right? He stood up to the NFL front office when he opened up the three, I think it was called the Three Aces in New York City, where him and others opened up a sports bar, and the NFL told him you can't do it. What do you mean I can't do it? And he finally had to give in, but he lasted a lot longer than I thought he would have when I read the timeline of events. He started having the Joe Namath show. He was one of those first people that got a TV show to talk about the Jets, and brought in other people. He was revolutionary in the 60s. He really was. He really kind of, when you look at the players today, you really he was the first one on the map. So Joe Namath, number one, number 12 in your playbook, but number one in your hearts. I take a line from my good man, Mr. Vince. That's Joe Namath, and that's on my top 5. Just to recap real quick, it's Richard Todd, Testaverde, Chad Pennington, Kenny O'Brien, and Joe Namath. So,
all right. I haven't forgot.
I think you would have been disappointed if I didn't do it.
I haven't forgot. I remember that.
Oh, I know. When we play the first game of the year, I'm sure I'm going to pay that price.
It may be before then. We'll see. I haven't forgotten. All right. Let's move to the 716. By the way, what's the date today, Stevie D?
7/16.
Happy 716 day. All right. And so here we go. So a couple things. Stevie D threw a little curveball on me here. I thought we were just going to do 4. He threw the 5th in there.
You know what? I don't know if we finalized that, so I own that one. I bet.
But I looked at, and I too did notable mentions. But it's hard because my notable mentions, 2 of my notable mentions were backups. Daryl LaMonica, a great quarterback, but he played behind Jack Kemp. Made his name when he went to the Raiders, right? But he was an above average quarterback. Frank Reich. Frank Reich is the best backup quarterback in the league. Frank, even though he wanted to be a starter, he knew his role, and he played his role to perfection. Yes, I have the picture of the game from the comeback game, but it really wasn't that. You know, Frank came in when Kelly went down. I believe it was against the Giants in like week. I want to say it was like week 13, week 14 against the Giants in the 1990 season. Had to kind of finish that through and take it till we got to the playoffs. That's Frank Reich. Um, and he was always there, always dependable, for the most part steady, right? Like any quarterback, you asked me to come in cold, maybe a little rough, right? For maybe even a quarter, but he knew the playbook, he knew the scheme, he knew the players, he knew where they had to be. To say that Frank would be a great NFL starter, no, I don't believe that. But for the Buffalo Bills, he was great as a backup, and he's worth a notable mention. And then we have the top two. It's magic. What can you say? A man that goes to the games in sub-zero temperature with a shirt off with the fans in the stands. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Fitzpatrick embodies what Bills Mafia is. He embodies the city of Buffalo. His tenure with Buffalo was short. It was only 3 years, but he left a lasting imprint on the city of Buffalo and with Bills fans. He brought excitement back, right? The numbers, he's a gunslinger. If you think about it, it's so funny when you look at Fitzpatrick's career, right? He was originally from, oh, yeah, yeah. You see that in La Monica. That's right. That's right.
I just noticed that.
Yes, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there. I was like, wait a minute.
That's right. That's right. But that's okay. But wait. So Fitzpatrick, right? Yeah, he what comes into the league with Cincinnati and then proceeds to hit every single team in the AFC East, right? And then he's all over the league, and but he's just a guy that just loved to play the game, loved to throw the ball. And then I had to put Tyrod Taylor up there, not for you, Craig, not for you at all. Uh, Tyrod was up there mainly because the end of the drought. And there were a lot of people that were anti Tyrod, but I'm going to tell you, Stevie D, Tyrod was exactly what we needed, and they put the right coaching in place for him to succeed. Um, and yes, he was the transition piece. And actually, if you think about it, um, his stop with Buffalo began what seems to be his career, right? And what I mean by that is that Tyrod now goes to teams as kind of the bridge. He is the bridge that takes to the future quarterback, whoever that future starter is. Uh, and he's gone through some ups and downs, some where he's been told some things and it didn't happen. What happened there in Cleveland, and then he goes out to the Chargers, and the doctor decides that he's just going to just jab him right in the lung, and all the kind of craziness. But I do appreciate everything that Tyrod did. And so I'll start my list. I'll start my list at number 4. Joe Fergie Ferguson. Um, DVD talked.
I'm just gonna get it out of the way right now. All right. I see
Yeah,
you. I
yeah.
see you.
Stevie D talked about, um, when he first was exposed to uh, the Jets and really took shape. And for me, it was with Ferguson at quarterback. Um, he was a third round pick, but he came in as a rookie and he started and just continued to start. You had it was a love hate relationship with Ferguson. It really was. You can see the touchdown to interception ratio. He was negative in the touchdown to interception ratio, right? But he would make some great plays. He would throw that ball all over the place, and then all of a sudden your hands to your head. You're like, I can't believe you did that. There for me the iconic play. Now, granted, he was on a sprained ankle, but he's running around on a bum wheel late in the game as we're trying to come back, and he gets a charge. Didn't happen. But Joe Ferguson, and just to kind of read some of that. The UPI All Rookie team led the NFL in passing yards in '77, passing touchdowns in '75. In 1981, he led Buffalo to their first playoff win in the NFL era, defeating the New York Jets
Damn,
in the
Richard.
wild card round with 268 yards in a clutch performance. Way to go, Fergie. He held multiple franchise passing records until Jim Kelly. Oh, yes, DVD. I knew you had something coming, and I was ready for that. I was ready.
Yeah, you beat Richard Todd. Big deal.
That's all right. Total
So
games.
you're the one who broke my heart in '81, my first year that I remember being a Jets fan. You're the one. All right. You broke my heart in '81.
168 total games, 28,000 yards passing. As I mentioned, the reverse of your touchdown to interception ratio. 187 touchdowns with 199 picks, and he had 10 rushing touchdowns. Number 3, Jack Kemp. Now, hold on a second. Because I want to talk about Jack Kemp. Jack Kemp goes against the grain of what I talk about, right? This is blood here, right? We talk when I talk about the Bills and being on that list, typically it's guys that are drafted by the Buffalo Bills. But just how the Bills acquired Jack Kemp makes it special. So Jack Kemp was playing around in the league. He had gone through a couple different teams. He finds himself with the Chargers. Jack Kemp breaks a finger. Okay? Dislocates a finger, breaks a finger. And so he tells the doctor, first of all, I want you to set my finger, but wait till I'm holding onto a football so that it's set in the way that I need to throw the football. I was like, this is a man's man right here, right? But then the Chargers decide that they're going to try to sneak him through waivers. Why? I don't know. Lou Saban, Ralph Wilson, they did what they had to do. For $100 on a waiver claim, they were able to get Jack Kemp. Outstanding deal. That's better than a first-round pick. That's why you are blood and you go on the list automatically, Jack Kemp. Aside from that, you had a career record 65, 37, and 3. You're a 2-time AFL champion and AFL champion MVP. You were the AFL's MVP, and when I say championship game MVP, you were the AFL's MVP in 1965, an AFL All-Star Pro Bowl selection 7 times, and a member of the Buffalo Bills Wall of Fame. What I don't see on there is NFL Hall of Fame, which was rather surprising. I actually misspoke when I was talking to Stevie D because I just knew that Jack Kemp had a gold jacket, but he didn't. He played as a Buffalo Bill. He played 92 seasons. He had 15,000 yards, almost 16,000 yards rushing or passing. But then you look at those numbers: 79 touchdowns and 136 interceptions. Stevie D, there's more to it than that. They were just winging that ball all around. They didn't care where it was going. They were just drop back. Forget 3 yards in a cloud of dust. We know what the AFL was. The AFL was a bunch of rebels that was out there, and they were just throwing. It didn't matter who it went to. Hit the referee. Okay, we'll try it again, right? You hit the other guy in the hands. Don't worry about it. We'll get the ball back. And that's really what it was. But what he did bring to the game was his ability to run the ball. Kind of the precursor to the Tyrod Taylor, which was the precursor to the Josh Allen. And so he had 795 yards rushing and 29 rushing touchdowns, which I thought was very high, especially back in those days. So Jack Kemp comes in at number 3. Number 2. Now there's a big drum roll. Who goes to number 2? It's Josh Allen. You're not ready, Josh. You are just about there. You are just about there. I'm just saying that right now. You will ascend to number one. It's a foregone conclusion. Josh Allen, what we know, came out in the 2018 draft. He was the he was the seventh pick in the first round. Sorry, Craig, he was the NFL MVP in 2024. Should have been the NFL MVP in 2023, but I digress. He's a three-time first team all NFL. Oh, wrong stat up there. Three-time. He's a 5 consecutive AFC East titles. Holds a franchise single season records for passing yards, passing TDs, completion rate, franchise career record in passing touchdowns. When we look at his stats, now this is the crazy thing, Stevie D. Almost 30,000 yards passing, 220. I may have to double check that because that doesn't seem right. I'm gonna have to fact check myself on that. 220 passing touchdowns, 88 interceptions. I know that 88 interceptions is correct, including postseason and regular season, because everybody wants to harp on the interceptions. And yes, they were high. But let me ask you that like to harp on the interceptions. How many postseason interceptions does Josh Allen have?
4?
That's correct.
Really?
That is correct. And so when it's money time, this guy delivers. This guy absolutely delivers. And I don't want to hear it from the commentators out there that are just trying to find something negative. And so they want to say, oh, well, he has a high turnover ratio. He does. He's a gunslinger. But when it's money time, he takes care of the ball, and he's still a gunslinger.
Doesn't he have like the best touchdown to interception ratio in playoff history?
All time.
Yeah.
All time. That is correct. And so, as I said, it's going to happen at some point. We know that he's going to ascend to number one. What he has done has really rejuvenated. He has really turned what was, and we're going to call it for what it was, a laughing stock. You had a team that was inept, could not get to the playoffs, just couldn't get out of its own way. And Josh came, and the funny thing is when Josh was drafted, everybody said, oh, the knock on him is, his accuracy. He played out in Wyoming. All these excuses why Josh Allen couldn't be successful in the league, right? And he has proven all of those naysayers wrong. Each and every time he's proven those naysayers wrong. And so, when we look at what Josh has done, and I don't want to belabor the point, it's just something that when I talked about early, when you get that guy, when you get him, you have to appreciate him. Don't put him on a pedestal, but put him on that list and really appreciate what you have. And that's why I'm wearing the Josh Allen jersey. I appreciate Josh Allen. Appreciate everything that he's done and everything, hopefully, that he will do. So Josh Allen in at number 2. And by the way, Stevie D, those numbers are correct. 220 playoff and regular season touchdowns. 220.
Honestly, he's getting stronger, right? I mean, the hate on this young man is incredible. Maybe I pay attention to it more because of you, right, in the show. But it's incredible the amount of hate he gets. And you know what's so funny? He's such a good dude. Like in the community, he's a good dude. I mean, he'll stop and talk to kids. He holds people's dogs when they bring him. Like, who does that, right? He's just a good human that doesn't allow success or fame change his foundation of how he was raised. And that kudos to Josh Allen. I mean, he's an unbelievable talent. He really is. Really is.
I'm with you, Craig. And there's no hate on Lamar. My hate on Lamar is not hate on Lamar. He was just in the ACC for a rival team. I can't like you, right? I don't like Sunshine, right? You're just rivals to my Seminoles. And then he comes into my conference. Well, now you're in my conference. And now you're going up against my guy. They came out of the same draft class. And you're going up against my guy. And now, my guy has to be here. But I'm with you. At the end of the day, when they both hang it up, I'll give Lamar the mutual respect that he deserves, similar to the way that I was with Larry Bird. Couldn't stand Larry Bird. Could not stand him. Once he retired, all right, Larry Legend. Now I'm ready to acknowledge you, Larry Legend. All right, number one, and we know who number one is. That is Machine Gun Jim Kelly. It started out a little rocky, Stevie D. I'm not going to lie. It started a little rocky with this guy. For those of you who don't know, Jim Kelly, part of that famed 1983 draft of quarterbacks. But Kelly said, ooh, I don't know if I want to play for that franchise that is not winning. I don't know if I want to play in that cold weather, right? Now, here's a Pennsylvania guy, Western Pennsylvania guy, who goes down to Miami and now all of a sudden, is all Hollywood and surf and all that kind of stuff, palm trees. Get out of here. But he didn't want to come play in the 716. That's okay. He went off to the Houston Gamblers, and we allowed his time in the Houston Gamblers to kind of get his mind right, get his arm right for the professional game. Because when he came back, he was ready, right? He came back, obviously, because he saw the handwriting on the wall for the USFL. Let's call it what it is. But he did come back and became a leader. And not only did he come back and become a leader, I'm going to fast forward you past his career to kind of present day. Jim Kelly is now a Buffalonian. The irony, he did not want to play in Buffalo. He did not want to be in the city, did not want to be in the cold. And now he is a true Buffalonian. He's all throughout the community. He lives there. He's raised his family there. He has so many connections and ties to the area. He's a Buffalo guy, right? And he's a Buffalo guy also because we embrace Jim for all that he did as a quarterback. Needless we say, 4 Super Bowl appearances, 25, 26, 27, 28, 5 AFC championship games, 4-1, got screwed in the Cincinnati game. I will keep saying that, got screwed in the Cincinnati game. He was the AFC Offensive Player of the Year in 1990, a 5-time Pro Bowl selection, a Pro Football Hall of Fame inductee in 2002. He's part of the Bills Wall of Fame. He's part of the Bills' 50th anniversary team, part of the NFL's 1990s All-Decade team. Here's a guy that was going up against, in comparison, up against the Marinos and the Elways because they were out of that same draft class. But he held his own. And there were other great quarterbacks throughout the league at that time. There really was. I mean, if we look at the quarterbacks today and we look at who's the top, and then we look at back in, say, the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, it's amazing how much quarterback talent we had back then all throughout the league. And now it's a passing game, and I don't think we see the same level of talent now. So, but he played 177 games with the Bills, threw for just about 40,000 yards, 258 touchdowns to 194 interceptions and 7 rushing touchdowns. But, Craig put up here, as an absolutely outstanding person. He is. He really is. He's gone through some heartache, and, a lot of us who are football fans, but definitely Bills fans, know about what happened with his young son, Hunter. And that was just painful as a football fan, but as a Buffalonian to watch Jim and the family, Jill, go through that, that was just rough. And he keeps his memory alive. And the other things that he's done throughout the community. And then he himself, had to go through cancer treatment, had to have surgery on the jaw. And what you have to give him credit, the fighter mentality that he has, he continues to persevere, even going through all of that. And, when I talk about the perseverance, DVD, the one thing that I think really resonated with Buffalo fans and even with some NFL fans when you talk about Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly he was with the group of the pretty boys, and I'm going to call Marino a pretty boy, and I'm going to call Elway a pretty boy, right? Those are the Hollywood guys. Kelly was with that group, but Kelly was, like they always said, he was the linebacker playing quarterback, right? He would stand in the pocket and deliver and take shots. He would throw the interception, one of his 194 interceptions, but he would be the first one down to tackle that guy because he was so ticked off that he threw the interception and he was laying hits, right? That was the mentality. And that mentality also helped galvanize the team. We went through the bickering Bills, and he was part of that, but he was also part of the solution. And that's really what made him a leader. Plus, side note, he opened up a great nightclub called Networks downtown in Buffalo. Some of the best, and then that's when I was free to roam around the city, Stevie D. and boy, let me tell you, that was one of the best nightclubs. Unfortunately, it closed, but
Why do I have a feeling there's going to be? We have to talk about this in OW Sports After Dark.
Oh, we would have to talk about that on OW Sports After Dark. That's for sure. But yeah, no, a great club. So Jim Kelly comes in at number 1. But Jim, just keep that seat warm for number 17 because the only thing that Josh is missing is an AFC Championship victory. You get that, you go to number 1. You get that, and you win the game after that. Nobody's knocking you off at number 1 ever. Just like Joe is your Mount Rushmore never going. Josh will be cemented in their bronze, gold, platinum, whatever you want to talk about. But for right now, Jim Kelly is number 1. It looks like we lost Stevie D there for a moment. Not sure what happened there. Stevie D was ready to start talking. I do want to kind of go back though. As we go back and we look at some of the players that we had in here, and talk about Jack Kemp because when you look at Jack Kemp's numbers, the numbers are not eye popping and eye catching, but something that I had alluded to when Stevie D was there, talking about the fact that the AFL back then, the AFL was just a passing type league. That's all they did was just throw the ball around. And so you went up against some of the greats, and what Kemp was able to do was to provide the leadership, which is really what was needed at the time, was that level of leadership for a Buffalo Bills team that was ready to go. Right. In essence, when you look at that team, and we talked about some of the great players that were on that team, they just needed the one guy to steady the ship. Look who's back! It's Stevie D.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I think I had an internet blip because it went down and came back up. But what I was saying to give kudos to your Bills, but just in general statement about NFL. When you look at that team, I mean, obviously you had a stout defense. When you look at that offense, right, it kind of mimics the great. To be a great team, you got to have that line. You got to have that Hall of Fame type quarterback in Jim Kelly. You had your Thurman Thomas. You had your Andre Reed. I mean, you had a good tight end, but you had the quarterback, the running back, and the receiver all in the Hall of Fame. You have
two receivers in the Hall.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lofton. Sorry.
Should have 3 receivers in the Hall of Fame. Tasker.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't know if I call him special teams more than a receiver, but fair enough. And that offensive line, you guys were unstoppable. And then you added the no huddle to it and moved that fast pace. Teams just couldn't keep up. I mean, it was something. I mean, the Jets were in the toilet, and you guys steamrolled us, all the time because we just did not have an answer for you guys, whether it was just your traditional offense or you went to that no huddle. We just didn't have an answer. You mean
Ladies and gentlemen, it's not as bad as Stevie D makes it out to be, because I can remember plenty of games going into the Meadowlands where you're like, it's a tough game. Did we come out victorious? Yes. Steamroll? No.
well, in Buffalo you steamrolled us.
I remember a game where, final seconds, and it was Jamie Mueller on an angle route, and Kelly hit him, and that won the game against the Jets. And you're thinking, in your mind leading up to the game, you're thinking, we're going to steamroll the Jets. When they got on the field, it wasn't that way. And it's the rivalry. It's the rivalry of the AFC. Everybody has it, in their divisions, I would assume. But it's the rivalry we had in that AFC East, right? Whether it be the Colts before they left, who were kind of doormats, right? But you had the Dolphins, you had the Patriots, who were doormats, but they still would play tough. I mean, we would go through it, whether it be Grogan and Hartley Dykes and Morgan and all those guys, or you look at what the Jets had, or you look at what the Dolphins had, and then of course what the Bills had. You are correct, and they say it, but the fantasy football. This is what I'm going to say, Stevie D. Fantasy football has skewed and really done a disservice to the younger generation of football fans, because the old school, right? And I'm going to say the guys back in my day, right, and older, you hit on it early on. That game in the game today, doesn't matter, is won in the trenches. It is won with the offensive line. You talked about early on about how instead of going for the tight end, you want to get, for this year's currency, you wanted to get the offensive line. You want a stabilizing force in the trenches. And so when I look at, and you talk about when I look at that team back in, the late 80s and the early 90s, you talk about people like Ken Hall, and none of these guys are in the Hall. None of them are in the Hall. I think every Buffalo fan believes that Ken Hall needs to be in the Hall of Fame. Jim Richard needs to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, maybe not, but definitely Ken Hall. Howard House Ballard needs to be in the Hall of Fame. These are guys that really, they were not unknowns in the Buffalo community. Your offensive line, you don't know who they are. You don't see them. But these guys, you knew them by face. You knew them by number. And that's what teams forget. And that's what I think GMs forget. And that's what fans forget now. They don't think about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, to your point about House Ballard and Ken Hall, when you look at Emmitt Smith's career, and you look at the linemen that got the notoriety and into the Hall of Fame because they won Super Bowls, right? And you look at Thurman Thomas and his career running behind those guys. Emmitt Smith wouldn't have been Emmitt Smith without those holes.
Yep.
Right? That they opened. I mean, they really had a really good line in Dallas. Well, you know what? So did Buffalo.
Yep.
Right? Jim Kelly was able to sling the ball all around the place, and Thurman Thomas, 2,000 all-purpose yards every year. It seemed like every year he had it, right? And how does that happen? It happens because your line makes it happen. And it is a shame that you have some players in the Hall of Fame from that team, but you're missing a few that need, right? You already talked about Cornelius Bennett not being in the Hall of Fame. Now you're talking about House Ballard, and you're talking about Ken Hall that should be recognized in the Hall of Fame. We talked about fan favorite here is Steve Tasker, right? Yep. We talked about revolutionizing a position and creating a position on a 53, creating a position. Now the Pro Bowl is not a Pro Bowl anymore, but allowing that to be selected to a Pro Bowl game because of that. And that's where it becomes the Hall of Fame for Steve Tasker for me, right? Because you revolutionized the game, and that's how you should be recognized, right? If Jerry Jones is in the Hall of Fame as an owner, because of what value he's brought to the NFL and how he's increased the value of the Dallas Cowboys, Steve Tasker should be in the Hall of Fame because that's what Tasker meant to the NFL. He created a position where people can get paid. I mean, stop and think about it. You can get paid by doing special teams only. And we all know Jerry Jones does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame as a GM, right? But he's there because he added value to the NFL and helped catapult the NFL into billions and billions of dollars, right? Because he's smart that way. He's just not smart in a GM room. And that's how I look at Steve Tasker. There's something wrong there. Ray Guy, I know it took Ray Guy a long time, but Ray Guy was the punter.
Yep.
Was the punter, the only punter in the NFL because he was that good. And it took him forever to get recognized, but he's in the Hall of Fame. It's time to be consistent in the Hall of Fame. We have to be consistent.
So I don't like how the process is done to get into the Hall of Fame. And
I know we're going to talk about it next week. All right. Yeah.
Precursor for next week. But I will say this, and I'm going to take a shot. Shame on Larry Felser, sports writer in Buffalo. And for the Hall of Fame, you have your players that you build your argument and build your case. And they get up amongst each other. And, that's how the voting basically goes, right? I nominate this guy, and you talk about all the accolades and all the things that this guy has done and why he's worthy of moving into the Hall of Fame, being, voted into the Hall of Fame. You have to build your case. It's easy to build a case for Jim Kelly. It's easy to build a case for Thurman Thomas. It's easy for Bruce Smith. It's easy for Steve Tasker. It's easy for Ken Hall. Maybe not so much House Ballard, even though I love me some House Ballard, right? But, definitely Ken Hall. And for those guys not to really be given the consideration, that's shame on the sports writer for not building that case. That's where I have a problem. Again, it's a smell test, DVD. I'm going to talk about the smell test next week. Either you are or you aren't. Smell it. Yep, you're good. You're in. There's no debate. It really should not be a debate. Ken Hall is a Hall of Famer. Steve Tasker is a Hall of Famer. And if you don't do what you have to do to put the cherry on top, then shame on you. So, but I guess we've kind of, giving a little preview. There's a lot of passion that's going to come out next week. There really is. We've been kind of previewing and giving hints as to the Hall of Fame show. I think Stevie D, maybe as I get older, maybe as there's more gray, I really start to become that ornery old man, and certain things just bug me. Right? Maybe when I was younger, it would just roll off, and you'd be like, whatever. But things bug me, and the Hall of Fame bugs me.
I don't think it's because you're getting older, but we've been talking about this for like 20 years.
But you'd think it would be therapy. You'd think it'd be therapeutic to that. Be like, well, we've talked about it for 20 years. I'm not going to call you a bum, but how a bum of a pitcher gets a vote in the Hall of Fame is ridiculous. Ridiculous.
It's ridiculous for players of that caliber to be even listed as eligible. I mean,
Even
come on,
better.
right? It's
Even
like,
better.
what are we doing here? To even allow a silly vote to be casted, right? I go like, how does a guy, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Ken Griffey Jr., Joe DiMaggio, Bob Gibson, I can go on and on, that they're not 100% of the vote.
Yep.
What idiot thinks that those guys are not in the Hall of Fame? They should lose their vote because the way baseball works it, right, is, well, we know they're going to get enough votes, so I'm going to move my vote over here. No, that's asinine. Because now you're saying that person's not home. Don't tell me that you want to use that vote somewhere else, right? Again, a preview for next week. There's a lot of passion, a lot of energy. And, Craig and Gregory and all the folks that chime in, man, we want to hear those thoughts next week. Because I'm sure you guys have thoughts on the Hall of Fame and how convoluted the process is to get somebody elected to the Hall of Fame. It's not good. That's why, Vince and I, we're going to open up our own Hall of Fame one day. We're going to get a piece of land, and we're going to get a building, and we're going to build our own, and that's it.
We've been talking about that for how long?
Yeah, well, the funds. No, it's not cheap now. Land is expensive.
If you're interested in being an investor into the future Hall of Fame, just let us know.
Yeah.
You can send that to mailbag@OWSports.net. All right, Stevie D. This was good. It helped segue the gap between kind of the mini camps and post draft to now training camp. Get ready, 716 Hard Knocks is coming our way. Just take a deep breath. With serenity now. Nobody do anything stupid. Please, nobody do anything stupid. Let's just go to work, do what we have to do. They say don't look at the cameras. Well, look at the cameras and know that the camera is there, so you don't say anything stupid. Don't do it. Don't do like a former New York Jet did and pretend like he was smoking weed on the practice field. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't pick up the grass at St. John Fisher or anywhere around it. Don't do that. Please. I'm just saying, this is a PSA from OW Sports on the do's and don'ts of Hard Knocks. Now, if you want to do some stuff that Tony Saragusa did, I'm good with that.
Well, there's a couple of things. One, do you guys train in Buffalo or around Buffalo, or do you guys go far away?
No, it's not that far. It's in Rochester.
Okay, so hopefully they spotlight some places in Buffalo, right? To bring notoriety to Buffalo. That's not just football. Hopefully they do something like that. Number two, I'm waiting for the rookie show because I haven't seen anybody come close to the Baltimore Ravens rookie talent show when they had the Shannon Sharp skit. That was number one. Hands down, nobody's and how old is that skit now?
Oh yeah,
and nobody's come close. The Jets have been on it twice and failed miserably twice.
Yeah,
failed miserably twice. The first one in 2010 was atrocious, right? So hopefully you guys got game on the rookie thing and whatnot. And hopefully there's no controversies that you guys have to deal with during training camp because you don't want that added distraction as well, right?
Well, with our second round pick being out, maybe we go to Roscoe. Was it Roscoe's Diner?
Roscoe's Diner. Yes, for Darrell Revis.
If we get the deal done, the infamous deal making spot, right? Maybe we go there and get the deal done.
And that was not upstate, but that was upstate Roscoe's Diner. That was not a Long Island, New York City diner. That was above Westchester, Schenectady, type of deal. It was a drive. I mean, that guy's famous, right?
Yeah. He's just home of the contract making diner. You come here, we'll get the deal done. So, but yeah, so we've gone through the position players. We didn't do the offensive line for obvious reasons, but there are definitely some guys that could be part of the top five. But I enjoyed it. It helped us kind of, as I said, bridge the gap to training camp. Here we go. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. Buckle up. It is time, right? It is definitely time. I'm excited. I know my man Stevie D's excited. Big Rich is excited, right? He's got his jersey ready to go. And we're in for a long season that's going to go very quick. We're not going to say our cliche of, man, I can't believe we're already 4 weeks in. Man, I can't believe because it goes so fast. Just be prepared. It's going to be a wild and fast ride. Buckle up. For some teams, it's going to go slow, though, Stevie. There's some teams where you're going to be like, will this thing ever end?
Yeah, right. I hope I'm not one of them.
Right? So, we'll see. But that's going to wrap this one up. For my co-host, Stevie D, I'm Vince, and we'll talk to you soon.
What you gonna listen to? Oh, OWSports. What you gonna listen to? Oh, OWSports. Sit back, relax. Vince and Stevie D are gonna break it down.
20-yard try for the lead. It is Owens. He's got it. He's got it. Here is Hall. Shot out of a cannon, and he will score.
They'll take you all the way to the Super Bowl or the exhibition game. Stay with them all the way to the Hall of Fame.
And the AP Most Valuable Player presented by Invisalign is Josh Allen.